play the...
Age of Transitions.
You are listening to The Age of Transitions. I'm your host, Aaron Franz, coming at you live this Friday night, July 31st, 2026. Live every Friday night from the facilities of Ocelli.com. First hour, Age of Transitions. Second hour, Uncle of the Podcast. Thank you for listening. Do consider going to Ocelli.com, leaving a donation to help the network, help Chuck out. TheAgeOfTransitions.com. That is my website. You can go there to find this podcast and find ways to support the show. The book, Revolve, Man's Scientific Rise to Godhood, paperback, ebook copies. It's still available. It always will be. Great way to support the show. Thank you, everybody who has purchased a copy of that. Also have the Patreon campaign at TheAgeOfTransitions.com. I have other products in the store, including the first 100 episodes of Trans Resistor Radio, which is this show. That's available through the Patreon, actually. You can buy that separate if you'd like, or you can join the Patreon and get it that way. Then there's different affiliate links, too. If you actually buy books, if you do, please click on the link to bookshop.org on my website and see if the book is there. You can search for anything after you click through the link on my site. And if you buy anything from clicking through my affiliate link, I'll get a little bit for the referral. It won't cost you anything. So remember, if you buy books, I don't know if anybody does, and if anybody wants to start a podcast, promo code Franz on Libsyn, I'll give you a discount, I believe, first 2 months for free. So thank you, everybody, for listening, for being here. I appreciate that. We are live on Ocelli.com. Also have the Age of Transitions YouTube channel is up and running, and let me make sure to take a look. Yeah, everything looks good, and in fact, I'm going to get the link for that and post it right now to my Twitter X so that people can see that. I just posted it, so it's there. I do have Twitter X. I do have YouTube. I have these social media things, accounts, and you can find them if you go to the website as well. It's all there. So thank you if you follow or any of that. Also, the Age of Transitions stickers, I have a lot. Some of you may remember I have these. I ordered a lot of these. I sent out a pack of a lot of these to Derek in Canada, so they're on their way to you, barring any sort of technical difficulties that brings a package back to me. I think it's going to be okay. I think I printed up the label all right. I think everything's good. But Derek, you should have a lot of labels going to you. So you can be the Canadian Street Team. Thank you for that. And then I have a couple of domestic United States ones to send out. I'm going to send them out probably this week because I don't have any stamps. I just ordered some, and the stamps are going to somewhat ironically come in the mail to me, and then when I get them, I'll just send letters with a couple of stickers out to everybody else who asked. And if anybody else does want a couple, just send me your mailing address to my email address. Send me your mailing address to my email address, franz@theageoftransitions.com. I'll send you a few in the mail. So thank you, everybody, for promoting the show, telling people about it, sharing it, what have you. And the same with the Revolve book. If you've shared the book or told people about the book, that too. Here we are. We're in the Age of Transitions. We're within it. We're living it. This is all a fun thing that we're doing together, whether we like it or not. This is the way that it is. So there's not much we can do about it. So let's have fun with it. Let's see what we can do. Let's make the most of this Age of Transitions thing. There's a few different odd little goings on that I wanted to mention on the show. And I'm going to be mentioning topics that come up again and again. But as I say, these topics are worth reiterating because I don't see a lot of people talking about them. So we're going to be kind of focused on, at least in the first part of the show, on the global propaganda matrix. What is that? Well, it's internet. That's where it is. Of course, the idea behind the internet is that we're a connected world and everybody can contact each other and all of the knowledge of the world is there and everybody's going to be better and smarter. That was the idea from the outset. And now, I mean, I don't think anybody even believes that anymore. I will talk more about the general zeitgeist, but it's definitely not optimistic. Optimism is not part of the zeitgeist. Certainly pessimism is. And so it is that idea of knowledge and all of this being shared through internet and social media, that's not going to fly. But what does fly is criticism, critique, anything that is packaged as anti-establishment or generally contrarian, to borrow Peter Thiel's favorite adjective for himself. Well, anything that is presented in that frame as we're going to tell the truth to you now. We're going to tear down the powers that be by telling you the real story that they don't want you to hear. A lot of times it's actually them telling it to you as a covert means of misinformation and propaganda. But hey, that's the nature of the global propaganda matrix. And it's hitting us from all sides. There's not one perpetrator that we need to single out. It's not the U.S. government. It's not the evil U.S. corporations that have taken over the government. I'm not saying those two things aren't horrible. I'm not saying that those two things aren't the same thing. But others that you have to look out for is other international governments. Yes, Russia creates propaganda and misinformation for us, the United States citizens, to consume online. Yes, that happens. China also creates propaganda for us to consume in the United States when we are online. And when we're not suspecting it, we will be hit with their propaganda on social media. It happens constantly. And yes, I mean, are we to believe the stories of the wonderful presidential regime in charge now and believe that we need to look out for Cuba and their propaganda campaigns to turn us into socialists and left-wing terrorists? I mean, I have no doubt that maybe some kind of influence operations are, well, any influence operations coming from Cuba, I wouldn't be too concerned about. They got so many problems there that any serious sort of operation that they could run, it's not going to be at a level of something like the Russian government, the Chinese government, the United States government, or a giant corporation within, the world economic system. A global corporation has the resources to create all sorts of influence operations and propaganda and public relations pieces, which they do. And that's part of this stew as well. So has something come out of Cuba? Maybe. Or is it going to spawn a left-wing terror network that's going to take down the U.S. from within? No, I don't think so. That's just a convenient story for the bigger operators in the propaganda sphere. The presidential administration and the government at large is using that to run, to push their pet projects. I mean, particularly little Marco Rubio and his crusade against Cuba. That he does want to invade. Bay of Pigs 2 or a new war or whatever. He doesn't care. He just wants to get in there. He wants to, that's a real thing. He definitely desires that. And so this propaganda is part of trying to soften us up for that. Okay? Pretty obvious, pretty straightforward stuff from analyzing the propaganda from our stupid government right now. But back to Russia. Yes, Russia, once again, it is a sin to even mention that Russia does propaganda on us, and it works. That they definitely haven't ever tried to influence our elections at all. Be that even by creating propaganda to influence the election, because that's a simple way you can do it, is create propaganda to try to influence voters in the United States. And of course you can do that by doing all sorts of posts on the social media sites. So what? As an alternative person, a conspiracy culture guy, whatever I am, a contrarian, I'm not supposed to believe that Russia does that simple thing that obviously they're doing, that they have done probably every single election that they've been online running ops. Of course they do that. Of course they do that. And now we can sit here and ask the question, how effective were those operations? And beyond that, did they really, go the next step and do all sorts of, hacking or doing some sort of espionage where they get intelligence assets within, the companies, voting booth companies and things like this? I don't know. I don't have all of the answers on that. But to say that the desire would not be there on the part of the Russian government would be idiotic. So this is, again, a thing that I get mad about. I bring up all the time because it's stupid. We need to stop acting like idiots in this realm. We need to just be able to admit obvious, basic things about what's going on. Everybody's running influence operations all the time against us for their own agendas. And there's a lot of different agendas. There's a lot of different players. Do even opposed players with their own self-interests involved, do they sometimes work together? Yeah, sure. And there is such a thing as the global economy, and famously China and the US they're forced to be cordial with one another when they need to be. But that doesn't mean that they're not opposed to one another at the same time. But whatever. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that. What I did want to mention was an interesting thing to do with everybody's favorite mass murdering maniac and despot, Vladimir Putin. We love that guy. I mean, right? And that's an interesting question. Do you now, maybe you don't now, but have you ever, and be honest when you answer this, have you ever thought about Vladimir Putin and been like, he's not that bad? He's better than what we have here in the United States. He's better than that. Look at him. He's trying to do the best for his country, and I should see through the petty United States propaganda against him because, he's not that bad. Have you ever, entertained those sorts of ideas? I mean, it's okay if you have, because there's been no shortage of garbage flooding social media feeds for years and years and years to get us to think that way. Again, Russian influence operations. Completely transparent is what they ought to be. Let's just, call a spade and say, yes, they've been doing this crap to us for years. He's always been a murdering scumbag. He's evil. He's an evil, sick man with too much power and he's remained in power, and he's doing everything in his power to stay where he's at and not let anybody take his position from him. That much is clear. And yes, the war with Ukraine is his war. It is him that made that happen. It's him who's perpetuating it. It's him that keeps it going. It is his pet project. That's how it is. That's Putin's war. All right? And we can sit here and be like, well, it's okay because Ukraine is filled with a bunch of Nazis, right? So it's not that bad. He's going after Nazis. Another obvious piece of propaganda from somewhere, right? He invaded a country. He invaded a sovereign country, and he does all the usual crap where he's like, well, it's not really a separate country. It's part of Russia. They just need to remember that. And I'm just going in there to, reunify, blah, 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 yeah, blah, 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 blah. All the same garbage, same as always from these guys like him. Go invade a country and give a bunch of stupid excuses as to why it's okay. But now, Russia is kind of reeling through the years of this prolonged war, which, what do they call it? The special military operation. That's their little term to make it seem better. That's their little propaganda term that they use over there. Some BS like that. It's a war. This war has been going on for years with no end in sight, and things are not looking too good for Russia. I'm not talking about the casualties. The casualties are just obvious. It's you can't even. I mean, what do you say on all the people that have been killed in this nonsense? But beyond that, the thing that I want to look at here is when is it going to end? When's it going to end is the question. It could go on and on and on. And it's definitely an interesting case in terms of the new face of war with the drones and the asymmetric warfare in the age of transitions. And there's been lots of, articles that have discussed this, and that's all worthy of analysis and looking at. But this past week, Putin had a crazy comment about the whole war, and he was confronted by a world leader who I'm not quite sure who it was right now, but I got this piece from a Twitter X user who, Vlad Vexler is the guy's name, and he's an interesting guy that I'll say that I trust him. He seems legit to me. And again, anytime you see anybody's content online, you have to be discerning about it. But to me, Vlad Vexler seems like a legit guy. I think he grew up in Soviet Russia, and so he is Russian, but he's been living in the States, and now he does a lot of kind of like highly intellectual criticism of Putin in particular, but Russia and what's going on in Russia and all that. So he does a lot of sort of intellectual, quasi-academic analysis online. He does a lot of videos about it. And the video this past week, he was mentioning Putin getting confronted and being kind of caught off guard legitimately, because he is not confronted. He's, nobody's allowed to do that. But he was by this leader from another country. That's why somebody domestically would have gotten in serious trouble for that. But basically, the guy's like, "Look, what the heck are you doing? Well, when is this war over? What is wrong with you?" That's paraphrasing for sure. But the retort Vexler was saying was insane, and it is. Putin basically said, well, the war, if we didn't have the war, people wouldn't know what to do. People are so used to it. They like living under this war, and people wouldn't know what to do with themselves if it was over. And that's the level that he's at, where that's like the best he can do to excuse this thing, is just say, well, nobody would know what to do with themselves without this war. I mean, what is it? I think it's is it millions of people have died in this thing? It's an insane amount of people. People are dying. They're just throwing Russian men on the front lines, just going into the meat grinder here. And he's saying these insane things that we wouldn't know what to do if it were over. We just love it so much. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So that was a good video. Vlad Vexler, I like him. Wild. So interesting to see what's going on there in Russia. I don't know. I'm no expert. I don't know if Putin's going to stay in power or if he's going to be challenged by somebody and taken out. I don't know. I mean, if he does stay in power, presumably he's just going to keep this thing going for as long as it'll just keep going. It'll be there forever war. He ain't going to stop it. No way. And he's just making up any garbage, and he's throwing out lame excuses now. And that's where you see chips and cracks in the facade of this mighty propaganda giant, which Russia is, on the global stage, certainly domestically. And when it comes to Russian domestic propaganda, we don't know what they're getting hit with. We can only imagine all the crap that they have to deal with over there. But you know it's constant, ever present, just like the war is great. Oh, we're so patriotic. Oh, we're going to get Ukraine back, and they're just going to love it when they're back. And oh boy, we just have to stop them. They're being, why did Ukraine have to go and be so horrible and be this evil aggressor against us? But well, we're going to fix it. Don't worry. Don't look at all, and we know that your father and your brother and your cousin, and we know that they're all dead from this, but that's okay. It's gonna be worth it. Russia is going to be restored to great glory, and the Russian Empire will rise again, and blah 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 blah. So that they're dealing with that. So I feel for them. I do. I really do. It would be horrible to be there. It would be awful. It sucks to be in the U.S. in a lot of ways, but it's not like that. There's not a war like that we have to deal with. We have to deal with the war. We do know that, and it is horrendous, and it's stupid, and it shouldn't be happening. But it's not as the scale of the actual casualties aren't at that level. So we're comparing these horrendous wars of these different countries. But anyway, the global propaganda matrix is a real thing. Every country vying for soft power influence. We were talking about soft power last week on this show, and how the United States is attempting their global government takeover, New World Order, Western U.S. style, the U.S. imperial style. The plan with us at the moment is to use software as our soft power, brought to you by Palantir, right? Just embed that into every single government you can throughout the world, and we will, by default, that government is ours, right? We got it. So that's the way that the U.S. is going to gain its new soft power influence. It's not with the evil, woke USAID podcast network that's is making everybody Marxist socialist, left-wing terrorist. No, we need to go about just putting Palantir all over the world. And it's not going to be global government, because that's what the Marxist leftists are doing and want to do and would do if they were in power. And they're going to be, but they're not, because we're in power. But if they were, it'd be really scary. So we have to make sure they're not. So make sure you vote for anybody who claims to be on the right side of the political spectrum. It'll keep you safe from the Marxist socialist nightmare that could overtake us at any given moment. That's the domestic propaganda line from the presidential regime and the federal government at large, which has been taken over by Silicon Valley big tech. that's what we have to deal with. We know what's going on here. We live here. We have to deal with it directly. We're not in Russia. We don't know what they're dealing with. Surely a nightmare, but this is our nightmare here. Okay, so we better get a good grip on what is actually happening and not what we want to believe, which is difficult, and we're all going to struggle, and we're going to get things wrong, but that's okay. But remember, don't get ahead of yourselves. Don't see one enemy and get stuck in that and think that somebody else isn't trying to get one over on you, because they are. But anyway, what else? What else do we need to? The global propaganda matrix. Russia seems... Now, what's interesting with Russia and talking about propaganda, talking about social media here, the global propaganda matrix in the United States on our social media, what we, the average consumer of digital media are generally, what the consensus reality there tends to be. And if my feelers are accurate, and if I'm gauging this correctly, it seems like Russia, and I know to a degree this is true, it's just what degree, Russia has fallen out of favor in the States and online. As I was saying previously, there's so much material over the years propping up Putin. He's a great guy. He's not as bad as he seems. Russiagate is a hoax. It's all that stuff. And RT was huge for a while. Huge. RT was a major player in the alternative media space, conspiracy culture. They were taken seriously by most people. Most people took them seriously. You were an oddball if you didn't think RT was good, just generally speaking, because they were speaking truth to the U.S. imperial system and everything that we're doing bad here in the United States, because we are the sole target of if we are confronting the powers that be, we're looking at the U.S. We're not looking at Russia, and they're making anti-Russian propaganda. Therefore, we like Putin. That was the old reality. That has gone by the wayside. RT is falling out of favor. Putin's fallen out of favor. And I see that on social media now. So that's interesting. Make that be make of that what you will. I'm not going to say, okay, that means this. I'm just making an observation. And presumably that's the case because this war is wearing down the country. They probably don't have the resources that they can focus on the influence, the global influence operations as much as they previously would have, right? Because the war is just taking so much out of them. That's an educated guess on my part. I don't know. So Russia is kind of reeling now. Interesting. Down but not out. I don't know. Whatever. Now China. Let's talk about China because the big three are the U.S., China, and Russia. They're not the only ones, but they're the big ones. China is riding high right now when it comes to this space, the global propaganda matrix. They're doing good, and they're riding high on the Iran war. Iran. Now, this war is horrendous. It's terrible. We should not be doing it. And it's so obviously in your face, stupid, blunder, just the same stuff that even this presidential administration carrying it out came to power criticizing the foreign policy decisions that got us to do the same things in the past. All the Middle East wars, it was promised that sort of thing would not happen with these guys in charge, and now it is. So that is insane and really does a number on us psychologically trying to make sense of that. I mean, the easy answer to that, which we should Occam's razor, really, it was just a line of BS to get them in charge, for you to vote for them and to get them in power. And once they're there, they're going to do whatever they want, whatever they think they need to. And that's everybody, anybody, all the time. Okay, so if you actually believed them from the start, you shouldn't have. But be that as it may, China can easily point out everything that we are doing wrong, and they can position themselves as the global alternative to other countries out there, and certainly they're doing that. There's lots of articles about this which are that saying that is correct. They can do that. They are doing that, and surely it's working, because what we're doing is all wrong. So it's made it easy for China to step in and take advantage of this situation. Now, a deeper look at this would be to go back in the past and see how China, influence operations in China, let's say even in 2016, but certainly as more recently the last presidential election we had, I would say that would have been in China's favor, we're talking about propaganda-wise now, to promote this MAGA Trump regime to us, the United States population, via their Chinese influence operations. It would have been in their favor to do that because of the destabilizing effect of these maniacs, these nuts who, it's just openly corrupt bunch of guys that do not know what they're doing. They're total puppets on a string for, again, the real powers here in the States that are the problem. But my opinion is that China, it would have been in their interest to promote this regime because of how insane it is and how stupid it makes us look and the dumb decisions it makes. And certainly it has led to this, and it shouldn't be a surprise that it has. And now you can see, now we see how China is obviously taking advantage of the current situation. But if you go back and look and kind of think of it a little deeper beyond just what seems to make sense on the surface is that Trump was bad for China because, he was the one that kicked off the whole United States and China Cold War, the tariff war thing going on, all the global economic tensions between the two. He kicked that off. But again, might that not have been in China's favor all along? I'm not answering that question. I'm just throwing it out there, okay, to maybe take a different point of view on these things than what has been thrown at us for so long. Now, that's China's propaganda that they're using on us for the Iran war, obvious. But what you really need to notice, and I'm sure people do because it seems obvious, is the other social media posts that are just generally pro-China, and they're ever present and they're all over the place. Current ones that I've noticed, I've seen a lot of things across social media platforms, like all of them. There's these videos that show vehicles, and it shows a Chinese one competing alongside usually other automakers of the world, and certainly the United States, but then this image I'm using on the video version of the show shows German cars, BMW, and I think another one, Audi, BMW, and it shows the suspension of a Chinese vehicle, and it shows you how much better it is than these, high-class German top-of-the-line cars that are supposed to be so great. Well, obviously, they're not as good as these cheap alternatives from China, BYD and other things. BYD is huge. All sorts of videos you'll see about them. I saw another video, I think, on TikTok of the suspension of a truck under a full load, like a work truck under full load. Like, look at the suspension of the BYD truck is so much better than these other two. The Ford sucks. So that, my friends, is a Chinese influence operation for sure. That's, it's being put out there to make us go, oh, look, Chinese stuff is great and it's better, and look at how awesome they are. And, that might not seem like much, but that's what that is. And so I'm just pointing that out as something that I've noticed lately. So that's something that's making the rounds. What else? And then a story that's interesting is this one about the data centers and the anti-data center movement or sentiment online. There's been talk of that is a Chinese influence operation, and we're being told that by the American establishment, right? You've heard about this. I know Kevin O'Leary, who isn't even American, he's a Canadian. Get out of here. But anyway, he's gone on there saying, insinuating that he has evidence that's a Chinese propaganda operation to get us against data centers, and don't believe them. We got to put data centers everywhere. So you've heard that, which is interesting because now we're looking at what is obviously U.S. establishment counter narrative to what is supposedly a Chinese operation. They're telling us it's a Chinese operation, the anti-data center information on social media. Now, this one is tough, and it definitely falls square in the category of something I want to believe. That is anti-data center rhetoric of all sorts. Because the hell with the data centers. They're horrible. And all the anti-data center information, I'm on board with that, and I want to believe that, yes, it's horrible. Everything about it, like I'm against the data centers. Now, are we going to ask the question, is China running, and this is an influence operation? I don't know. But the point I think I'm trying to make is that even though I am fully opposed to the data centers and in line with that whole thing, I'm also willing to accept the idea that maybe China is like using this in some way, like, get them against the data centers and I'll throw their AI development out of whack, and let's promote this and let's make videos about it. Maybe. I don't know. So, this is the nuance here in this space that we got to deal with. We got to take things we like, got to take things we don't like, and, just consider other ideas. At least just consider ideas. And it may be that China is somewhat, it seems like they'd have to be involved in this to one extent or another. But does that mean we shouldn't be opposed to data centers? No, we should be opposed to data centers. So, crazy times. You got to be on your toes, okay? There's a lot going on here. Can you keep up? Is this too much? Let's lighten things up and talk about popular music. This ought to, lighten the mood a bit. Enough about global propaganda and China and Russia and all this other stuff. Let's talk about everybody's favorite 1990s pop music sensation group, Smash Mouth. Everybody knows Smash Mouth. We've heard the songs on the radio. Rockstar. That's cover that they did of the I'm saying I remember it, but I can't. What's that song? I can't. Anyway, a bunch of Radioheads, right? We know them. We know Smash Mouth. Big hits. I was actually on, Apple Music. I listened to my music through that app. And it shows you suggestions on the main page when you're on there. And it suggested to me the new single by Smash Mouth. They have a new song now in 2026. They're released a new single. I know this because the app told me. That's how we know anything, is because the apps tell us. So I'm no different, okay? I learned that Smash Mouth's new hit single, well, I don't know if it's a hit yet, but they want it to be. They do. Their new single being suggested to me, and I'm sure millions of other people on the same apps. The title of the song is Had Enough. And I thought it was hilarious. And I made a tweet, a post on X, whatever you call it these days, saying that Smash Mouth has literally changed their tune from "Can't Get Enough of You Baby" to "Had Enough of You Baby." Because the title is "Had Enough." That's the title of the song. But in it, he says baby. He's like, "I've had enough of you, baby." So I just thought it was hilarious that the exact opposite of one of their biggest hit songs from their heyday, "Can't Get Enough of You, Baby." That was one of their biggest songs. "Walking on the Sun," that was a big one. But "Can't Get Enough of You, Baby" is one of their biggest hits. I'm sure they made tons of money off of it. This is one of those bands that was so big that certainly the members, like the singer, whoever's getting the songwriter credits on this, I'm sure they're living comfortably off of this, which is unusual in the music industry. But I think this band is one of a tiny minority where they probably were able to do that. So "Can't Get Enough of You, Baby" was part of their bread and butter, and they've lived off of that, and they've done well on it. So now it's ironic and downright hilarious that they just made a song that's the opposite, "Had Enough." I just think it was funny. But taking a closer look at this, I believe there might be some deeper stuff going on. I think it might be an indicator of the zeitgeist. When I was mentioning I want to talk about that, well, it's through Smash Mouth. The zeitgeist that generally is pessimistic. We've all been made aware of how horrible everything is. It's all been made super obvious how terrible the powers that be are, how terrible the establishment is. We all know that. We've all been, and once again, the presidential administration that currently sits there actually was put into power on this grievance narrative. That's how deeply entrenched this is ingrained within the U.S. psyche at large. Consensus reality, the zeitgeist is that we're horrible, we need to fix everything needs to change, we'll do anything that's thrown our way that seems like it's going to change everything. Yes, we're going with it. And it was one of those things was electing Donald Trump and company under the guise that he was going to do that. Now, we're seeing the Iran war and all this. Maybe people are starting to second guess that. His approval ratings going down. But that's not to say that general sentiment isn't there, which is interesting and something that can be exploited by other people in the propaganda space. Other players in the global propaganda matrix can leverage that, can leverage the zeitgeist against us. But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about cool popular music, pop rocks. Smash Mouth is like the epitome of that Sirius XM channel, pop rocks. It's pop, it's rock, it's poppy rock that we play. Smash Mouth is like the band that defines that channel. They're like a pop rock. Their music sounds like it's got like this hard rock edge, but it's also completely poppy and gumball and candy colored and so that's them, and we all know that. Everybody does that. Nobody's denying that. That's just what Smash Mouth is. But Had Enough. I think that this song, in the title, you can kind of see it reflecting that zeitgeist of pessimism, and we've all had enough. We've had enough with everything, right? This song is saying that, so it's capitalizing on that. But also beyond just that general sentiment, general feelings, there's details here which are interesting as well. Like, Had Enough is spelled intentionally wrong. Enough is spelled ENUFF. I think we all know that that's not how you spell the word enough. It's purposely misspelled in a comical way. But it's kind of, that kind of feels newspeaky to me. It's like, yeah, we spelled everything correctly, and it was a longer actual phrase with "can't get enough of you, baby." Now it's just "had enough" and we're spelling it wrong.
Yeah.
That's the way we like it. What's
You
up,
know, it
Chuck?
also is it's cyclical because if I don't know if you ever you might be a bit too young, but there was a band called Enuff's Enough,
Yes, I know that.
and it was spelled like that, enough, and then the letter Z, enough. So, that happened in the 80s during our great stages of apathy when I was a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And Enough's Enough was a hair band, which is hilarious also.
Yep.
Because believe me, I had enough of that crap the second it hit.
Enough was
but
enough.
Enough was enough.
They
Damn
were
it.
right.
And it's amazing to me that Smash Mouth is literally though the consummate generator for the zeitgeist. Because hey, now you're a rock star, right? All that stuff. The Shrek movie that it was tied to.
Yeah.
Okay, the absolutely ridiculous amount of residuals they've gotten from being tied to the movie, from being played, from being kid friendly.
Yep.
Smash Mouth was.
Yeah.
Although if you've seen them in recent years, it's funny. I'm surprised that a new single came out. Did you see the concert footage where the singer is like totally blitzed and starts like really berating the audience and getting angry?
No.
Oh man.
This is recent, like just like this year or something?
This is like maybe a year ago, yeah. And he's like at a fair. He's like it's some stupid like, I mean, it's hilarious. He's like at one of those state fairs,
Yeah.
where
yeah.
usually
Yeah.
a band who is way on the way down ends up playing. It's like, what do you mean? There's 2 members left of Foreigner? Oh, they're at the state fair. Yeah, the other guys from Leonard Skinner,
Yeah.
stuff like that. The original bass player for the Sex Pistols, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
These guys end up playing these weird gigs for, a little bit of pay. And Smash Mouth was doing one of those. And like he was just so clearly intoxicated and so clearly berating the audience and all this stuff. And then he winds up like falling off the stage. It's really funny. I'm surprised you've never seen it.
No, that sounds great though. And I have heard about the singer that he is like, it sounds like he has depression, first of all. And that
he's manic. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard people say that he's like mad about the band Smash Mouth and how corny they are, and he's kind of embarrassed by that.
Right. That was the whole thing. That's how he got into it with the audience. It was like, all the little kids are sitting there requesting the Shrek song.
Yeah, sure.
And the guy's pissed because it's like, I'm a serious artist,
I'm a
play
rocker.
the one where Donkey sings along, like, yeah, dude. Get used to it. You're in Smash Mouth, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, but it's just so funny to me. They are the perfect, though. They're exactly perfect for releasing a single right now.
Yeah.
And, Enough. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's just full circle. Smash Mouth, full circle. I love it. I'm so glad you're doing this. Anyway. You only got a little bit of time left, but I had to jump in and at least comment on that. And oh my God, there was a couple other times I was tempted to pop open the mic, but I wasn't going to do it. And I said, oh, I got to, man. The Smash Mouth thing is too funny.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, good
Yeah.
times. I mean, everybody has a memory of a Smash Mouth song. I mean, they're, I mean, for what it's worth, they're iconic. They made their mark on American pop culture. They are the pop rocks band. That's them. And yeah, it's interesting to think about the singer being genuinely upset with his identity and what he became. Because I remember their early record that got huge. They had a couple tracks on there that were kind of punk rocky, had like an angsty, teen angst edge to them. I remember there was one that's titled "I Have a Whiny Neighbor." It was about, playing music loud and their neighbor was complaining about it. There's stuff like that where clearly they want to be these rockers and everything that comes with that, but they became the ultimate Disneyized sort of band. But they've had enough now. They've had enough of all of it. The other thing to take a look at literally with this is there's cover art for the single. And it's a doozy. It's something else. Not only is it featuring Had Enough in this weird sort of terrible font that looks kind of like a old Batman comic in this like explosion red graphic. It says Had Enough with this drop shadow on it. It looks awful. But the image behind that is what looks like a photorealistic illustration of a dolphin slapping a fish out of its trainer's hand. It's a dolphin, presumably at SeaWorld or something. It looks like it's in actually like a large public swimming pool. It's got palm trees in the background, slapping the fish that was supposed to be its food out of its trainer's hand. The trainer's kind of like rocking backward. Kind of looks like Steve Irwin, kind of, but like the SeaWorld version of Steve Irwin. And the dolphin is strange looking, almost muscular, kind of like too thick to be a dolphin even. Though it's a weird image that I believe is AI generated because it's got the look. We all know the look of the AI slop now. And I got to say, this looks to be an AI slop cover on this thing that they slapped on.
An AI slop roided up dolphin. Is the image, basically.
Yeah, and what's funny is like that even the trainer is all like kind of muscular too. Like he's like, really like super like kind of buff guy. He looks like he's been taking all the testosterone boosting supplements to be an alpha male and all this. But it's a weird image. AI slop. Again, if we're talking about the zeitgeist, that fits right in. This is a song for this moment in time. We've had enough. It's a weird callback to the better times that everybody mythologizes online. The 90s were this great time where everything was perfect. And boy, why can't we just go back to everything that was happening? 90s and even early 2000s are held up on this pedestal where people will post things about like Limp Bizkit was the best thing that ever happened to American pop culture, and why can't we have stuff like, things like this. And certainly I'm sure people have said the same thing about Smash Mouth. But at this point, we've all had enough. It's got to go. Even the family-friendly Smash Mouth band and band members are trying to regain their edge and take the power back by releasing this new single, telling everybody what their new message is. They've had enough. They're in there with us. They don't want to go back to the 90s. They want to go back to something else probably, because the 90s was when they were too commercial, and they don't want you to think that that's what they are, I think. I don't know. But zeitgeist. And yeah, AI slop is part of the zeitgeist. And I think when the future comes, it will be looked back on like, when you look back on like commercial art style of the time that sucks and that's like purposely gaudy and weird looking, this will be our version of that currently that gets looked back on in like a decade or two.
Sort of like haircuts in the 70s where people look at it and go, what in the hell was wrong with you?
Yeah, and there's all sorts of weird like artistic styles that you look back on, like Trapper Keeper art from the 90s. Anything that was on one of them, that's kind of like an example of this weird like commercial art styles that get super dated, kind of campy, and so this will be our version.
I think I just got $1 million idea though, Aaron, and you know what it is? Smash Mouth, their next single should actually be a cover of Eye of the Tiger. That would be just, so completely incestuous artistically that it would be perfect. Remember when that started coming back around and you're like, for me, I don't know what it was like for you, because again, you're a little younger. But for me, I'm like, why are they resurrecting the movie that was like, the song, excuse me, that really drove interest in Rocky 3?
Yeah.
Like, that's really what it was. Eye of the Tiger was like Rocky 3. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. Mr. T was super popular.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you know,
well,
I pity the fool.
That's another example of pop culture at the time. You just throw in all the popular elements. Mr. T is the big actor that everybody likes. This style of rock music that Survivor is playing is the style that is in everything. And so here's the Rocky song for that. And so, you know.
And they put Hulk Hogan in the movie. I mean, I'm just saying, you know, it's just Rocky 3 was let's throw everything into it and see what happens. And it worked.
Yep.
But but when people go to resurrect that, it's the funniest thing. It's like, you know, everybody thinking that somebody's a manly man, but they're playing YMCA. You know, like, it's just really funny to me. I don't know why. I just can't stop laughing at it. But anyway, it is the age of transitions. That's the way it is.
Yeah, it is. Oh, man. Yeah, I love this kind of stuff. And I mean, just a podcast goofing on this would be good, but you know, we can do it every here and there, and I think it's pretty good. And there's some depth to look at here with this new Smash Mouth song. I think I haven't even listened to the whole thing. I started listening to it and turned it off. Maybe I'll listen to the whole thing sometime, but you know, we'll see. But the album cover, or not album, but single cover, looks to be AI generated. Fits right in with the zeitgeist. The sentiment of the main theme of the song definitely fits in. And the hearkening back to a better time, making America great again. You know, in the 90s when everything was perfect. Everything was just great back then. Why did anybody even complain? All those losers that were coming of age in the 90s were all a bunch of lame-os that should have just taken advantage of the perfect situation, live the ultimate existence, you know, in their 90s heaven that existed in our minds now. And so, you know, there's a lot of weird psychological tricks we play on ourselves, and it happens in the same space as the global propaganda matrix where all this is floating around. The more lighthearted, not necessarily propaganda or influence operation stuff can also take advantage of us. So just remember that for what it's worth. The Age of Transitions. I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Once again, Ocelli.com. Every Friday night we're live. We will be live with Uncle the Broadcast coming right up, so stay tuned, everybody. Can be doing that show next. The Age of Transitions is my website. My name is Aaron Franz. As always, I will leave you by saying, Seeker, seek on.
The Age of Transitions.
Okay.